that's what brings me here.
Great. And myself, I've been doing web development probably most of my life, web design. Enjoy it. I'm a full-time career in finance and business intelligence. And yeah, that's my short intro. Just briefly, a code of conduct. Yeah, have a read through that. There's a link there. Not much to say except, yeah, enjoy yourself. It's up to everybody to enjoy themselves. And most importantly, kids and pet bombing is permitted or wanted or totally accepted. Yeah, everybody behave themselves, everybody have a good time, and that's all that says. So yeah, if you want to just open up your mic, put in your camera and just say hi, it'll be great. Don't forget to unmute yourselves.
If you guys hover down to the bottom and you click on reactions, there's an option in there to raise hand. So if you click raise hand, then we'll throw it back to you. You'll need to unshare though, Morris.
Unshare my screen.
Yes. So we can see.
If I can work out how to do that.
Just should be at the top. You should just see stop share.
In meeting. No, I don't have a stop share. Sorry,
I'll introduce myself just quickly while you're doing that. I'm Beck. This is my first Elementor meetup. So nice to meet you all. I'm in Melbourne, Australia, and I do freelance consulting, helping small businesses with automations and things like that.
Excellent.
I might as well say hello as well. Oh, sorry.
Go for it now. Go for it, Dowie.
Yeah, I'm Dowie. Dutch name, David's the Australian or the English equivalent, if you like. So anything that starts with D is good. Well, within limits, anything that starts with D is good. I'm in lockdown Sydney. I do web design, hosting, but we specialize in Google Ads. So especially at the moment, trying to help businesses find their online presence, especially in lockdown Sydney and occasionally Melbourne and Brisbane. Well, pretty much all of Australia on and off at the moment. So yeah, good to, I think it's my second meeting. And it's Will's son's birthday, so we should all say happy birthday to his son. So when he watches the recording, he gets a special greeting. So happy birthday, Will's son.
Happy birthday, Will son.
Happy birthday, Will son.
Little Will.
Little Will.
Little Will. Thanks for that, Paul.
Yeah, hi everyone. Paul, I'm in lockdown Northern Beaches at the moment. Yeah, which is pretty common for most of us, I think. I've been in the IT game for quite some time, software development, DBAs and everything. But day job these days is a Scrum Master, but I have a couple of websites I look after for some friends and yeah, do a bit of freelance web development with WordPress. So hello, everyone.
Anybody else want to say hello?
Lorna, I'm over in Perth. I have a full-time career in heritage interpretation, so I just create websites for clients on a casual basis. Absolutely love Elementor, use it for everything. That's, oh, and I attend meetups, Elementor meetups all over the world on a regular basis because I love learning more and more about it.
So you're a pro.
I'm a pro learner.
Yes.
Pro meetup attendee.
Anybody
That's
else?
that's one of the best things that lockdown's given us, the ability that everyone uses Zoom now, so you can go anywhere around the world that do your meetings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good old lockdown, yeah.
I don't know about good, but yeah, lockdown. Yeah.
Seeing the positives, I like that.
Anybody else?
I'll say hello. Hey everyone, I'm Murray. I'm from Melbourne, and I've actually only just started using Elementor as of about a month ago. I was working in a whole bunch of other CMSs, LMSs, and everything like that. Even my work uses Divi, and I'm trying to actually steer them away from to actually something that actually sort of enables you to do whatever you want. So hence Elementor. And it's been giving me some great joys, great headaches, as I've been learning through it, doing deep diving into the PHP code and the hooks and everything like that, which has been really good. Really enjoying seeing how much you can integrate CSS into it, which is fantastic. And yes, I'm very, very impressed so far, and I'm looking forward to just be getting more inspiration from people around me on how they're using it and how they're actually twisting it to their ways.
Anybody else?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Well, good. Let me carry on. And I'm assuming again you can see my screen.
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Right. So the Elementor update, I guess we'll just do a short update tonight. The main thing is the Elementor hub, and I think I had a link open to that somewhere, but anyway, what it is a hub, and you'll notice when you signed up for tonight's meetup and probably last week, it all went through this new hub. So on there you can go and find all the meetups in the world if that's what you want to do, and yeah, Lorna's done that. But it's also documentation, blog posts, videos, all sorts of things on there, forums. So yeah, go and have a look there. There's the link forum.elementor.com. You'll need to sign in with your Elementor password if you've got one, or create one in a free account. And yes, we've also got the Elementor Sydney page, the Facebook page, although it says move away from Facebook, which is Elementor, but we've got our page. So go and visit that one too. And now over to John, who's going to tell us about wiggling words. And yeah, quite an important topic, typography and things like that. So looking forward to it. Over to you, John.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to try and share my screen now, Morris. Will this work?
I think I've stopped sharing, so that's good.
Let me just see. You guys can see a sort of pink and purple background that says typography, yes?
Yep.
Okay, excellent. So here's just a kind of little quick introduction to what we're going to talk about. So typography is, being a graphic designer, a huge thing for me. It's something I've been studying nonstop for the last 20 years. So we're just going to very, very briefly look at typography. I'm just going to talk through font choices and why it can be very difficult to choose the right choice and how you choose them and why you should choose a certain one. Then we're going to look at one of my favorite fonts of all time called Comic Sans, which isn't my favorite. That was a joke. And then we're going to look at the Elementor text path. So I don't know if you've seen this one. It came in an update from Elementor about 2 months ago, I think. And it just allows you to do very cool things. So once you have a good understanding of typography and know what you want to do, it doesn't have to just be typography in a straight line. You can make it wiggle. So yes, let's take a little look at typography. As you can see here on the right, what is typography and why is it important for graphic designers?
Hey, John, sorry to interrupt. We can't really see your screen. I think we're still, I don't know if this is for everyone or only me.
Mine's
I
the
just,
same
Yeah,
as
it's the
well.
same thing.
What's happening? Sorry,
I can still see
So
a splash screen.
you guys, you can't
we're
see my
still
screen.
stuck on the title page.
Yeah, I can only see a splash screen.
No.
Wiggle your words, Elementor, new text path.
You
What
can
about
actually
now?
select
Can you
it with
see
the view options.
Oh, shit, I tried to play around with this before. Can you guys see a screen now that says important or not?
No.
No, not yet.
Okay, what about
Seconds.
now?
Nope.
Morris, I wonder whether you're still sharing.
Yes, we're
gonna-
still viewing Maurice.
Yes,
Mark.
okay.
Yeah.
So Morris, you need to close your screen. That's the problem. It was stuck on that one because
Because I've got on resume share, so it's saying that I'm not sharing. Stop.
I was able to go under view options at the top, and there were both of your names there, and I switched screens by choosing the other name.
oh, okay. So Morris, I just need you to stop sharing. So if you're looking at the bottom in Zoom, there should be a button there for sharing screen, or there should be one at the top of your screen that you're sharing.
Yeah, I've got one that says resume share because I've stopped my share. So I'm not
So
sure.
if I was
why.
to share it now, guys, then can everybody see my screen now?
It's stuck on my screen. Not
I was
sure.
just given an option to select now. So
If everyone can select the John Wolfgang Miller screen.
I've done the stop.
There,
There we go.
there. We got it now.
You can see it, and you can see me looking in Google Slides, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
Okay.
certainly can.
All right, and you can see that the screens are changing
Yep.
and stuff, yeah? That's
Yeah,
all working?
absolutely.
Okay, sorry for that,
Yes.
everyone, but yeah, if you have to make the choice, choose John Wolfgang Miller. I don't know where you choose that part, but okay, so I'll talk through it now. You didn't need to see that first screen anyway. That was just me introducing what we're going to talk about. So as well, we'll go back to that one. What is typography and why is it important for graphic designers? So important, question mark. As you can see there, I'm saying that typography choices is often overlooked when it comes to design and when people are building websites. We always think that the most important visual thing is images and videos and animations and colors. No one thinks of typography as a visual thing. It has a purpose, but it is the most important part of your website, or at least for most websites. You know, your website may just be videos, but almost every single website has words, and the words are there to be read. This is why we go to websites. So therefore, everyone is using your website for the words, and they are seeing the typography. And the font choices that you make when you're choosing a font should represent you and represent your product. This is why it's a very important part of design and creating your website. So which font should you choose? Which kind of typography would be right for you? Now, this is a very, very difficult thing for a lot of people to sort of figure out. Even as a graphic designer, I'm working with new clients, I often have trouble choosing the right font or the right type of font, the right typography. So there are some examples here. We have at the top where it says classic, that is a serif font. If you don't know the difference between fonts, you have serif and son serif. Serif is basically the pointy little bit on the end of the letters. And then the son serif one, you can see, does not have pointy little bits. We have slab serifs next to that, which is kind of a combination of the two, of serif and son serif. And then the three along the bottom, these are script, handwritten, and decorative fonts. And these are the ones that can often be used for the wrong purpose. And here you will see the best example of when the wrong font is often used by quite a few people. And this is Comic Sans. Is it really that bad? Technically, as a font, no, it is not that bad. The problem with Comic Sans is it became one of those fonts, famously, that was always used at the wrong time. So a little bit of history of Comic Sans. I don't know if you know this one. It came out when Microsoft first released home PCs, when they came out with Windows 95. And the purpose of Comic Sans was actually for this little dog that you can see here, which was a widget that they had inside Windows 95. And it was a dog just telling you what to do. And that's when the font was created, but it was never actually used for that. But therefore, it was there in every single Microsoft program, including Microsoft Word. So the problem was, back in 1995, people were able to create letters using whichever font they wanted. And so what did they choose? They choose the coolest looking one, which was Comic Sans. but unfortunately, it was used for the wrong purposes. A lot of people are using it for business letters and for resumes, CVs, that sort of thing, which is why it's now become quite a comedy font. And why is that the wrong font to use for these sort of professional things? As you can see here, it's cartoony. It's very childish. It has a handwritten sort of style. This font is actually generally used in comic books, hence being called Comic Sans, to have a speech bubble of someone. It is not used for official words, official letters, so therefore it's considered unprofessional. And so that leads on to the last line here, and this is the most important thing to think about when you are choosing a font. Fonts should not be what you like. You shouldn't just pick a font because you like it. You should pick the font that is appropriate to you and your website and your service. Here you can see an example of when Comic Sans has been used and it has been used for the wrong purpose. This is Netflix. I pay $15 a month for Netflix. The one at the bottom looks professional. It looks like I'm willing to give them a lot of my money to watch their movies. Whereas the one at the top in Comic Sans, this looks like it's been made by a small child. And I'm not going to give them my money for watching all these movies. So it looks very unprofessional, so it's not appropriate. Whereas the one at the bottom, a Son Serif font, is appropriate. And here's a few more examples of logos. I didn't make this, but of just when Comic Sans has been used and shouldn't be used. So for Chanel, a very fancy, expensive company, you can see that that is definitely the wrong font to be using there. Something like NASA, they take a lot of taxpayers' money in America, so that shouldn't be using a very cartoony, childish font. So how do you find the font that is relevant to yourself? Well, this kind of comes down to your branding. As you know, there are a billion different fonts out there. And your choice of typography should come down to you. So it should represent your personality, it should represent the work that you do, and it should represent the industry in which you are in. So obviously, like, we're all creating websites for different reasons, but my main website is my portfolio website, and I'm a graphic designer. So therefore, the font choices I make in this should represent what I am doing, the service that I am offering as a graphic designer. So back to the font choices that we saw earlier, serif, sans serif, etc. We're going to look at the difference between serif and sans serif. As you can see up here, serif is a font that is considered classic, traditional, and trustworthy, whereas sans serif is a font that is considered modern, minimal, and clean. What's the difference between these two? Let me show you some examples. This is some serif fonts for companies that are considered classic, traditional, and trustworthy. Time magazine, Vogue magazine, and Tiffany & Co. They're very highbrow. They're not tabloid newspapers. It's Time, you know, it's quite serious, talking about a lot of serious things in the world. And Tiffany & Co., I've never bought anything from them, but they're probably very, very expensive, selling jewelry and stuff. So they are all companies that are considered classic, traditional, and trustworthy. And here you can see some examples of sans serif fonts for Facebook, Google, Netflix, and Spotify. Why are they using this font? Because they are a simple company. They are not highbrow. Yes, we have to pay for Netflix and Spotify, but not a lot of money. And the other thing is they are there for everybody. Everybody uses Facebook. Everybody uses Google. We're not trying to aim this as a richer, more fancy, highbrow person. So therefore, this is the perfect type of font for them. So there we are. That's a little brief introduction about fonts. And we'll take a look at this new text path widget on Elementor in a minute. But yes, if you have any questions about fonts and typography, we can cover that in the Q&A at the end. Hopefully I'll be able to answer them all. But just some advice for you here. Just a couple of things you can check out after today's lesson. First of all, the first one here is a post on Elementor about guide to web typography. Basically everything I've just talked about there, but in a lot more detail. And it's really, really worth reading that one. You'll learn a lot from that about what is appropriate for your own website. And then two other things which I highly recommend you should watch if you want to A, be entertained, but B, learn a little bit more about typography. The first one is this poster you can see on the right here. It's a movie called Helvetica. You've probably heard of the font Helvetica, and you may have seen this movie. If not, watch it. It's a very, very good documentary, not just about the font Helvetica, but about all fonts and what they mean and when they are used and when they are used wrong, basically everything I've just talked about. And also, if you have Netflix, the last one here is a show on Netflix that's called Abstract. I don't know if you guys have ever watched that. There is an episode from season 1 talking to a designer called Paula Scher, and it's called Painting with Words. And she lives in New York and is just one of the best typography artists in the world. And the way she talks about typography and font usage in that, it's worth watching. So check those things out. So there's my brief, try to keep it brief, introduction about typography. Yeah, so any questions you have on that, we'll put them into the Q&A. But for now, let's switch over to Elementor. You guys can see Elementor now, yes? On my screen, on the share screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay, excellent. So just gonna have a little bit of tea. So this is my new website that I'm building for myself. It's not live yet. It's got a lot of work to do on this one. But I thought I would just show you this one to show you two examples of how to use this new Elementor widget called Text Path. And what it does, as you can see, I have text boxes in here. This is just a heading box, and then this one's just in text editor. And if you guys have used Elementor a lot, you'll understand what these widgets are. And as you can see with all of these, it's where you put all your text, and you can choose all your fonts in here, but they all run in a straight line from left to right. And sometimes we want to do cooler things with a font. And this is what the text path allows us to do. So this whole section up here, this is my hero section. I'm happy with that already. I've got enough going on in here. But in this section here, this is where I want to show you the first use of the text path widget. And I'm going to put something to sit in above this little introduction I have here. So first of all, let's find the text path widget and drop it in above that. And as you can see, as it's dropped in, it's already just done something automatically. It's put in some text already, and it's on a wave. It just says add your curvy text here. So this is one of the many cool things that you can do with this one. And if you're familiar with Elementor, we have three sections up here: content, style, and advanced. Let's start in the content one. First thing you want to look at when you're using this is your path type. As you can see at the moment, it's set on wave, and we have a few different options in here. This is what's very cool about it. We have an arc option, a circle option, which looks like arc, but if there was more text, that would fill a full circle. Line, which means you can put a line on any angle. We play around with the angles of that. Oval, which probably would look better with more text. And spiral, which again would be kind of spinny if you had more text in there. And you can add in your own one as well. If you have an SVG file, you can draw your own paths in something like Illustrator. So this means you can be super creative with text. But the one I want to use here is the circle one. I want to put in some text about what I do as a graphic designer and put it in a circle and make this spin. So in here, I'm going to write in my little slogan, if you will. It's, as a graphic designer, what I can do for customers, which is print, digital, and branding. And I've already chosen my path type circle. I'm just going to make it sort of fill this whole circle. Next thing I'm going to choose over here is alignment. I want it to sit, I have a centralized text here with good day and then a little introduction about myself. So I want this to be centralized as well. Then we're going to go over to style. And the first thing, the first thing I'm going to do is change the typography. This is dropped in a default font, but I want to use one of my sans serif fonts that I'm using on this website, which is called Antonio. It's Google font. Which is the same one I have below with good day. And that's a bit heavy, so I'm going to put that down to 100. And we'll play around with letter spacing in a minute. So as you can see now, it's not quite filling the full circle, but it's also way too big. So I'm going to go to the size. I'm going to play around with that first. And up here, if you're familiar with this, you always have two options when it comes to sizes. You can choose a pixel size or a percentage. I'm going to choose the percentage. And that's not at 500%. That's just dropped in straight away, but I'm going to set it to about 20%. No, maybe 30%. Okay, so that is the kind of size where I want it to sit. Because you can see now this more about John, that's sort of lining up with the bottom of this image, or close to anyway. And so that is sat in the right position. Now, what I'm going to do is make the text bigger. And as you can see, as I'm doing that, that is filling up the full circle, which is very cool. I also want a bit more spacing on this one. So if you guys are familiar with the typography option in here, you can change the size up here, letter spacing. I'm just going to space it all out a bit more because I think that looks cool in a circle. Yeah, there we go. That's very cool. I like how that is sort of sitting above it. A few things to change though. Too big. Let's go back to 20. Much better. And I want to bring in my primary color for this, which is just here at the bottom. So I'm going to click on my primary color. And as you can see, it's changed to the magenta that I have there. That looks much cooler. I really like that. They also have a weird sort of hover option in here as well. I don't want a hover color, so I'm just going to set that to the same. So even if I hover over it, it's the same. So yeah, that's looking very, very cool. But one thing we promised you guys in this lesson was to make it wiggle. As this is a circle, I want it to spin. And this is one of the very cool options that you can do within the text path widget. So we're going to go to the last tab here, which is advanced. And we're going to go to motion effects. This can get a little bit complex. Have a little play around with it if you guys get the chance. And what I want to do is a scrolling effect. So I'm just going to switch that on here. Now, a scrolling effect is brilliant because it means that you get the movement as users scroll up and down through your page. And obviously the one that I want here is to rotate. So I'm just going to switch that one on, and you can play around with sort of the speed and all of that. If you want, you can go fast or slow and everything. But let's just take a look at this page now. If I open the page, or my users open the page, they'll see this part at the top. And then as they scroll down, they see my little slogan there spinning around as they scroll down. Print, digital, and branding. As I scroll up, it goes the other way. That is very, very cool. Let's just make it go faster. I don't know how fast. Just play around with this. I might look stupid now. Yeah, there we are. It's spinning stupidly fast, but that looks kind of quite cool. I think I'll just go back to 1 on that though. So yes, so that is one way that you can use the text path widget to make a circle. And you know, you can even just bring this section to sit on top of the images and stuff. That always gets a little bit complex when you're playing around with your margins and your padding and stuff. But I think that looks very cool above the text there. In fact, I'm going to go a little bit smaller. That's my only thing I want to change. 15%. Yeah, there we go. Now my text sits in between the center of the image on the right there. Very cool. Okay, so that is text path option 1. I'm going to show you another quick option with this one now, with the wave option. So we're going to scroll down to this part of my website, which won't actually be there. I just threw in another picture of myself. It's just all pictures of myself at the moment. There will be pictures of my portfolio when this website goes live. I'll let you all know. But I want to use a text path now, a wave text path, to sit in this section that has me. And I have a black background on here, but this is a PNG image on top of that. So with a clear background, I kind of want the text to just sort of run behind the back of this. So let's put in another text path and play around with this. going to drop that in above myself. As you can see, just the way it's kind of creeping up into the one above, it just did the same default setting with that one again. First of all, let's just make it white. And the hover version white as well. And then we're just going to do what we just did a minute ago. I'm just going to change it to Antonio font again. And I'll do the weight at 100. And percentage, right. So I have a full width section here. So it's not boxed, which means I can make this text run from the far left to the far right over here. So what I want to do is go back to percentage and quite simply 100%. One option you can play around with if you want to see where the path goes is within content, show path, switch that on. As you can see, there's a red line here that's running all the way to the end there now. I don't need that though. I know that I filled 100% of this section. So let's just write my slogan in here again. Print, digital branding. I didn't spell it right, did I? Branding, there we go. And I'm liking this wave one. This is one that I want. And I kind of want this wave to run from left to right and just sit behind me. So let's go back to style, typography. I'm happy with the size of that. So I'm just going to play around with the letter spacing and space it all out. Just going to drag this one out until the G is right at the end. That's too far. There we go. Yeah, I love that. That looks very cool. It's a bit bright though. Let's go to the color of that. I'm just going to knock it down to a much sort of lower version. Just because I want it to sort of subtly sit in the background behind me. So that's, I'm just going to copy that hex code and just paste it into Hover as well. So that looks very, very cool. But the problem is you can see it's sitting at the top. I want it to sit behind me. This is something I'm gonna have a little play around with. I normally kind of figure out this one's, you guys probably have the same thing. If you're trying to make one layer sit on top of another layer, then you have to play around with the margins up here. So I think if I put like a big, oh, hang on. Oh, so what I'm gonna do is unlink them. I'm gonna put 500 pixels at the top and then do a minus amount below that. And in theory, there we go. Yes, that's sitting behind me now. So what I need though is that one to move up a little bit. There we go. Maybe a little bit less. I'll just go, oops, 400 there. Yeah, there we go. So what I have now is the words print, digital and branding sitting right there behind me. Obviously you can't see it all, but it's my slogan. It's kind of there in the background. And I've already introduced users to this one at the top here. So it's just kind of like coming back into that again, just to remind everybody visiting my website that this is what I do. So that looks very cool. And I mean, that could have been done before just using a straight line text, but I like the way I kind of have this curve because it kind of just curves over my shoulders and sits behind the circle there. Let's just do one more last thing with the motion effects on this one. I'll do something slightly different. So as we scroll down through the page with this one, we have rotate. Let's just see what we've got. So we'll switch the scrolling effects on for this one down here. And I'm going to go with the blur option. So I want it to fade in. So as you can see at the bottom there, as I scroll down, it's fading back in. I'm just going to sort of up the level of blurring. Okay, so there we go. So now we have two text path options. Users visit my website, they see the hero at the top here, a little bit of introduction about myself. As we scroll down, print, digital and branding, followed by introduction to myself. And then as we scroll down to this one, my face again, and you can slowly see the text behind fading in as we scroll down, which looks very cool. So yeah, there we go. There's quite a lot of information there about typography, and then two examples of how to use the text path widget. So I will stop sharing now. And we are throwing this open to questions. Do you have any questions about anything I've talked about there? I know I talked about a lot in one go. Anything I've talked about in terms of typography and anything in terms of the text path widget.
We have a first
Eva,
question, John.
yes.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Go on.
No, I was saying, I was going to
there.
say, yeah, Eva, use the reactions button at the bottom and raise your hand, or yes, you can put the questions into the chat box on the side. Is that what you're referring to, Julia? Yes.
Yes, that's where we have our first one. So the first question is, can this be done with position absolute and left top, etc.? So I guess they're referring to in the Elementor Advanced tab.
So in terms of this one kind of being in the background or something, so we're saying what absolute position, as in the background moving. Does someone want to explain, whoever said this one? Do you want to give an example?
That was me. It's because I've actually seen a video on this done before, but I think someone mentioned it was that they were actually layering things on top so that they could. I mean, because I like the way that you did it, but I'm just wondering, because I didn't quite get it how the other person did it, they were just using, of course, Z-index to make things stack on top of each other. It was actually a really cool one where they had some solid text, then they had some watches spinning over the solid text, and then they had the text again over the top of that outlined. So it's almost like the watches went inside the lettering and you saw the outline over the top of it. And they were using Z-index to stack 3 layers on top of each other, but I just wasn't sure 100% how that was actually done. I mean, do you sort of know how that would be done? Because I sort of missed it and I didn't quite understand how they did it. And I thought it was a really cool way of stacking stuff on top of it.
Yes, so there's quite a few different ways of doing that. And the way that all of this works in Elementor, as it does in any page builder, is when you drop something, it drops it in above it or below it. If you want to make things sit on top of each other, well, the first way is to play around with the background. As you can see here, oh, hang on, let me go to share my screen again. Here we have a little TV screen with my face in it, and you can see a sort of background behind that, this little pink squiggly line. And then if I go into this section, what I've done there is I've dropped in a background image. And the position of this, obviously, yes, as you were saying before, top left, I can play around with these things. That can be sitting anywhere that I want it to sit. And then you can have it as a fixed attachment. So as I'm scrolling up and down there, then it will sit there. Now that's the easiest way to play around with multiple layers, because you always have to have a background, and everything that is dropped on top of the background is a column. And then within that, you will add things. So here I have a fixed image in there, or if I just want that to be scrolling, it will scroll down as I go. And then I have an image sitting on top of it. That's kind of the first way of doing it. So then another way to get layers in is that you can use the background of the column. So here I am so the background of the section has an image, and here I am in the column. And if I go to style and then I go to background, I can add an image in here. So let's just put in an image of the background there. And there you can see I have an image in the background, and you can see the print and digital thing spinning around that. So let's just say that that was the only thing that was in this section. I already have the column set up. If I go to edit column here, where everything's in the center of it. That might be in this, yes, it's in my inner section. Vertical align is in the middle. So you can play around and make things either sit at the top or sit at the bottom. If I change that to top, you see it jumps up to the top. But if I go to middle, so if you have an image in the background there, as you can see, that is static. That circle is staying in the exact same position as I'm going up and down. So if you had an image in the background of the column of a watch, for instance, and you wanted that text to spin around it, that is where you would do it. Did that make sense? And did that answer the question?
Yep.
Awesome. Yeah, it's a difficult one to play around with. And the other thing to remember when you're building any website is all the devices this is going to appear on. And when you may build it on your website and that lines up perfectly there, what's it going to look like on your friend's website? What's it going to look on my mum's computer, which is from 1995? What's it going to look like on an Android tablet or a iPad, and what's it going to look like on a mobile phone or an Android phone? So those things can be a little bit difficult, but that's one way that you can kind of ensure, if you have like the background in the column or the background in the section, and then something sat identically centralized to that, then that can work. Do we have more questions?
We don't have any in the chat at the moment, but if you guys want to ask anything, just come through.
I was just going to say, I'm really glad that you covered that, because I'm starting to play with layers a lot and all the wonderful widgets that Elementor's got, and things moving and fading and on entrance, and yeah, and it's, I wasn't sure if I was doing it the right way, but based on what you've said, I think I've got it.
Yeah.
So that's reassuring.
Yeah, it can get a little bit complex. And I mean, this is kind of, Elementor does a lot of things, and it's worth even just playing around with the text path widget, even if it's something that you're not going to use, because it gives you a better understanding of sort of like motion effects and how the effects work when you're scrolling or when you're hovering over something. And it's because it's not an image or it's not a video, then it's text, and that moves in a different way to images. So yeah, it's definitely worth playing around with those elements.
Anybody else?
I have one comment, which is just selling my services. If you guys need some more advice, I always talk about this one every time we do a lesson. If you look in the chat, there's a link in there to my 2.5-hour Skillshare video on how to use Elementor without using a theme. So just building it up from a blank page. And if you've never used Skillshare before and you click on that link, you get like 14 days for free or something. So you can watch my video and learn a lot more about Elementor. And as we're all in lockdown, or a lot of us are in lockdown, you might have a bit more time to watch a lot more videos on there. So check that one out.
Great.
I just make one comment.
Mm-hmm.
I love the T-shirts. Ghostbusters and the Goonies.
This is my thing. As you can see right now, I'm wearing a Jurassic Park.
Jurassic Park. I love the Goonies. That's the best movie of all time.
Oh, Goonies.
I was going to say that as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's just kind of been my thing, and it's sort of my branding thing. And if you were to watch my Skillshare videos as well, you will see all kind of like the 80s thing I've got in the background, and there's a lot of Super Mario things, and then a lot of references to all the amazing 80s movies like the Goonies and Ghostbusters and Captain Planet and Space Jam and all of these.
Awesome.
Great choices, John.
Yeah, completely agree.
John, I was just going to say thanks also for the intro with the typography, because it was simple, but it was and short and sweet, but it was spot on, and it just again reassuring that choosing the right fonts for the right situations, and I love that you talked about Comic Sans, because I made a comment in the comment section about I work with a team of graphic designers and they refuse to use Comic Sans. They just roll their eyes when they see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just sort of like, it's one that we all sort of joke about, and it's just like the font that everybody hates. And it's not that it's hated at all. It was just one of those things that was famously used for the wrong purpose. And my friend who lives in Petersham, I walked past a bakery by her house the other day, and it was like a pretty fancy bakery where, you know, you're going to go in and pay like $5 for a croissant or something. And their entire logo was made out of Comic Sans. I'm like, well, I'm not going to go in there. it turned me away because I'm like, that's the wrong font to be using for a place that is going to charge me a lot of money. And that's why it's not that, yeah, graphic designers hate it. It's just, it has a time and it has a purpose. And most of the time we don't use it.
Thanks, John. With a few minutes to go. Yeah, next month, hopefully we'll see you all. I'm going to go through Elementor add-ons. So John was saying that Elementor's got everything, and which is right. There's a lot there, but then there's a lot of companies who've built all these plugins and all the add-ons to Elementor and giving you more widgets and more functionality. So what the intention to demo a few of those and show you what they can do with before you buy them or before you download them, and we can have a bit of a play. And Paul will say what happens if you press that button. And so we're going to have sort of a live demo interaction. I've got quite a bit to show you, but then also for you to ask questions and say, let's try that out. So before you buy it, let's give it a try. So that's what next month is, 2nd of September. So see you there.
With that in mind, Maurice, is there any chance of getting a good media management plugin?
I actually, so two things. I've got one. I think it's called Happy Files, and that sorts out my my media, as you say, to put it into folders. So I think that's called Happy Files. But there was a WordPress quickie today from Will, which I missed, and it was actually called Media Management, I think.
Yeah, it was really good. But yeah, that was one of the questions, a good media management plugin.
Yeah, I missed that session, so I didn't see what he was saying. But yeah, I use Happy Files for my media, for especially the images.
Yeah, okay.
I think it's called Happy Files.
Well,
But next month, the add-ons are more specifically to the widgets, the Elementor widgets. So
okay, no problem.
Like the heading widget, what can we do with that? Who else has got a heading widget, and how does that work? Or the wiggle your words, or the text part, who else has got it, etc. So it's more on the widgets rather than just general plugins that are available for WordPress. It's more the Elementor widgets that we're going to cover. So that's the plan for next time. Thank you. And
Awesome.
Yeah.
Are we wrapping up then, Maurice? Or
I think so. Everybody, it's nearly time anyway. So thanks for joining us, and hopefully we'll see you next time.
yeah, thanks everybody
everyone.
for listening to lesson. And yes, make sure you're there next month, September the 2nd. We'll see you then.
And
cheers,
thanks,
guys.
John. See ya.
That was awesome. Thanks very much,
Thank you,
guys.
John.
See ya.
Thank you,
Bye.
Maurice.
Thanks. Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
Cheers.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.